See, we want to see character development. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this book. He was just a piece of shit. What's up, bitches? Welcome back to my channel. You've already read the title, so you know what this video is about. We're gonna be talking about all the books I read this year, and there are 51 books. I keep looking down because I have a whole list written here, and there's so much I need to talk about. So I'll divide the books into a few categories. So there are a lot of series in these recommendations, so I'm gonna make another video dedicated to the series, and I'm not gonna go too much into detail about each and every book because there are 51 books, and if I do that, it's gonna be like a 2-hour long video. Another thing, I'll make an entire video on all the books I DNF'd this year and the books I found problematic, because there are so many books I find problematic, I swear to God. Alright, so the first published book I read this year was Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. And I'm not gonna lie and say that I did not like this book. When I first read it, I absolutely loved it. I had given it a solid 4. But the more books I read, the more I realized how problematic this book is. And see, the thing is, I love bully romances. I love it when the guy is a piece of shit. But I also love it when the guy redeems himself and gets better throughout the book, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see character development. There's no character development in us. And the amount of shit that is going on in this book is fucking crazy. Like, just... Anyways, I have given it a 2. This is definitely going in the video with problematic books because this book is... So the next book I read was Roomhate. I don't know the author, but I'll put the screenshots so you can see it. I give this book 3.5. It was friends to enemies to lovers, so you could say friends who have a fallout to lovers, which is kind of my favorite trope, so I really like that. It has a third party, and I don't mind cheating in books, so that was good. But I think there was also a baby involved. Like, I don't remember the plot that well because I read this way back in May or April. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Okay, so the next book I read was Red, White and Royal Blue. I have this book with me, but I did not complete it. And it's not because I did not like the book. Okay, so I read my books online, alright? I read all of them online because your bitch is broke. She can't buy all these, and some of these are really expensive. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get this book. So I stopped reading online and I ordered this book and waited for it to come, and by the time it came, I was over it. And that shit happens with me so much. Like, I start something and I leave it in the middle and I never go back to it. So that happened with me. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 because I really liked it. I liked the romance, and it's between 2 guys. That's like, I love it. I got into reading because of books, because I read so many fan fictions on Wattpad. I still do. I love them. So that was something that got me into this book, and I really liked it. I liked the plot. The banter is so good. I love this book. I mean, I'm definitely gonna complete it. I'm gonna give it a 4. And I'll give you an update on this in my next video because I don't know what I'll rate it when it ends. The next book I read was Bad Habit. It will be somewhere here. The guy is a piece of shit. The girl's whipped, and yeah, and it's like, it has one of my favorite tropes, which is brother's best friend, and I love that trope, but it was just not going well with this book. I gave it 3 stars, but you know what? Let's give it 2 stars. I don't like it. Yep, I'm gonna change it. Okay, the next book I read was Vicious. This is the first book in Sinners of Saints series, and I like this book. Is the guy a piece of shit? Yeah. Okay, when I first read it, I would have given it 4.5, but I've reduced it to 3.5 now. The thing is, he could have done a few things differently. There was no need for him to be a piece of shit, to be very honest. He was just a piece of shit, and you get the backstory and you get why he did what he did, but that didn't really justify it for me. And all the groveling he did in the end was great. At least it was more than what guys usually do in books. That was good. And the guy is so fucking hot. Like, calling someone hot who you've never even seen, that's such a flex, I swear to God. And this guy is hot. So, but just because he's good looking does not mean that you will forgive everything he's done. So yeah, he could have been a little better. Yeah. The next book I read was Scandalous. It's from the same series. This is the 3rd book. I skipped the 2nd book because I was not feeling it. I started it, I read 1 chapter and I stopped it. Just Scandalous. It's age gap. I love age gap. From what I remember, I really like this book. I like the chemistry. the guy was not a piece of shit. He was actually pretty understanding from what I remember, which is great. And like there was so much banter going on in this book, which was pretty fun to watch. The girl's dad was a piece of shit, and like the girl has so much trauma, but then the guy really helps her. Overall, I liked the book, and the chemistry was off the charts. If age gap is not your thing, I would not recommend reading this book because the girl is 18 and the guy is 30, so you would be like, pedo. But if you're okay with age gap, you can read this book. It was pretty good. I liked it. I rated it 4, leaning towards 4.5. I really like this book, okay? The next book I read was The Darkest Temptation, and this is a mafia book in the mafia series. It's the Maid series, at least that's what it says on Google, and I am such a hoe for mafia, so I loved this book. And this book has kind of Stockholm syndrome, and I like captive romance, okay? Just in books, captive romance is my thing, so I like this book. I love this book. I read the entire series. There are 3 books in the series: The Sweetest, Oblivion, The Maddest Obsession, and The Darkest Temptation. I will rate them, if I had to rate them individually, I'll give the first and the second book 4 stars, and The Darkest Temptation 4.5 stars, because I absolutely love this. You know that trope where one person gets hurt and the other person realizes, oh, I like them. I really like that trope. That's a trope I really like. And like the development of the relationship was so good. The writing is so good. I wish I could go back and reread these 3 books, especially The Darkest Temptation. I love this book. I think I'm going to read this again because I've been in a reading slump for almost a month now, and I need a good book, so I think I'll read this again. The next book I read was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. It's actually a really famous book. You must have heard about it. I had given it 5 stars, not gonna lie, but I have reduced it to 4 now, and hear me out. Okay, so the plot is really good. I can't talk about the plot much because this is the kind of book you have to go into blindly, and like if I tell you the plot, it's gonna have a lot of spoilers. But why I reduced the rating was, why I took 1 star away was because this person really needed therapy, and they did not get it. They just got a happy ending, and I'm just like, okay, great. I want the person to have a happy ending, but I also want them to get therapy, and there needed to be a confrontation scene. I feel like if the person had been confronted, especially by this one particular person, like I'll make another video dedicated to this book because I want to talk about it so much. But I gave this book 4 stars. This is like, you should read this book for sure. Like I said, I do like the book, I do like the plot. If you are in a reading slump, again, this is the kind of book that will get you out of a reading slump, so you can go ahead and read that. The next book I read was 1,000 Boy Kisses, and is this young adult? Yeah, but I really like this book. I would give it a 4.5 or 5. This is like the first 5. Okay, so is the book a little cliche? Yeah. Is the plot predictable? Yeah. But like, I was so attached to the characters, you could say, and I loved their relationship, especially the epilogue. Oh my god, and the way the book ends, it just had me so hooked. I really like it. I like the concept, I like the story, I like the whole meaning of 1,000 Boy Kisses, which you'll know when you read the book. And it's just, the book is adorable, it's sweet, it's fast-paced, it's gonna make you cry. I read this after It Ends With Us. I was literally bawling my eyes out for a week. The next book I read was Top Secret. Again, this is a gay romance. I love gay romances, and I liked the plot. The plot was so good. Okay, so I'll just talk about the plot just a little because I have to. I really like this book. So basically, this is about 2 guys who live in the same fraternity house, but they are enemies. Like, they hate each other. They're always fighting in person. And one of the guy is gay, or I think bisexual, and the other guy has a girlfriend. And his girlfriend tells him that, you know what, we need to spice up our relationship, our sexual relationship. So let's, like, it's gonna be my birthday. So why don't we go ahead and find a guy for a threesome? And the guy is like, you sure? And she's like, yeah. He goes ahead and makes a profile on this dating app where you don't show your face. It's kind of anonymous. You just show your body, and it's for gay people, I think, and it's like a gay app. So he comes across this guy who is actually the guy from his fraternity, and so they start flirting on text, and in person you see them hating each other, then on text they're flirting, and when they finally meet, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? It's just like, I love this book. I loved it so much. I would definitely give it 4 stars or 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 stars. I really like this book. The next book I read was Twisted Emotions from the Camorra Chronicles. You can just see from my smile how happy I am talking about this book. The entire series is great actually. I read Twisted Emotions, then I read Twisted Pride, then Twisted Hearts, and then Twisted Cravings. And then I went ahead and read the first series, which is the Born and Blood series, because the first book in the Camorra Chronicles, the guy in the first book of the Camorra Chronicles is related to the Born and Blood series. So I was like, you know what, I should go ahead and read that, and then I'll continue it. Was his name Fabiano? Was it? I'm not sure. I don't remember. I remember Nina and I remember Remo. I call him Remo. You can call him whatever you want, but I love Remo so fucking much. But so Camorra Chronicles, I rated this series 4.5. Just I loved it. It was so good, and it was dual pov, which is something I like. I want to see what the girl is feeling, and I also want to see what the guy is feeling. I can be in both of their heads. So after reading the Camorra Chronicles, I read the first series, and I didn't read Twisted Loyalties, which is the first book in the Camorra Chronicles, because it's kind of related to the Born in Blood series. So I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and read that. I read the series. The series is a fucking disappointment. Do not read it. I would not recommend anyone reading it. Like, the second book is good apparently, and I skipped that book. You know why? Because I read the first book and I loved the sister. I'm not sure what her name is. Gianna, I guess. It was something with G. And I loved her in the first book. She was so fucking sassy. I was like, yes, bitch, I want to read your book. I went ahead, read her book. Disappointment. So much disappointment. The only reason I'm going to give the series 2 stars is because of the fourth book, for like the book on their third sister. That book was still good. I liked it. I'm gonna give it because of that. And after reading Camorra Chronicles, I kind of got used to the dual pop, and it's like single pop, and you really cannot tell what the guy is thinking, especially in the first book. Like, it's really annoying, to be very honest. I did not like it. Yeah, and there's another book, and there's a Growl, I guess. I'm not sure about the name, but that book was good. So I'm gonna give the series 2, and I forgot if I rated Camorra Chronicles, but I gave that 4.5. I really like the series. Twisted Hearts was annoying, but we'll talk about that in another video. Next book I read was Pretty Reckless. This is actually from a spin-off series of the Sinners of Saint. This is actually their kids. I only read the first book. There's another book, something God, I don't remember the name, which is really famous. I started that book, did not like it, DNF'd it. Maybe I'll get into it somewhere in the future. I read this book. This book has so much drama. From what I can tell, this had so much drama. But this book had me hooked, and there was suspense. And I could see wishes and like all the older characters whom I kind of missed from the Sinners of Saint series. So this book was pretty good. I liked it. I have given it 3.5 stars. You could read it. The next book I read was Serenading Heartbreak. I read this because Steph recommended this. If you're watching this video, you must watch her videos. I absolutely love her recommendations, and she loved this book. So I was like, you know what? I need to read this. But I'm sorry, I did not like it. The plot is so predictable. Like, the entire time I knew who she was gonna end up with, and the guy is so fucking annoying. Like, he just disappears randomly, and he keeps making decisions for the girl, and he's like, I thought if I did this, it would help you. I thought if I did this, this would be better for you. And I'm like, bitch, let her know what you're doing. Like, he would just disappear, and she's just left there waiting and thinking what the fuck happened. And just there wasn't even miscommunication. There was just stupid things, and the girl was a doormat heroine. Like, I hate it when the girl can't take a stand for herself. It just pisses me off. Like, the guy is here 1 second and then he disappears the next, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's fine, I'll come back to you, haha. I'm just like I said, this book pissed me off so fucking much. You know what, I've written 3 stars, but I won't even give it 3 stars. Just 2.5 stars for this book. I don't like it. Hate it. No. Next book I read was The Bet. So you can tell from the title that there's gonna be a bet. So yeah, there's a guy, he's with his friends, and he's like, I can tame anyone, I can teach anyone anything, and just I can make anyone sophisticated kind of, and they're in this restaurant, and then there's this waitress who's our protagonist, and she's like fighting. She literally pops off on this one guy, and it's so funny. Like, that scene is so funny. And then from there, and so his friends give him the bet that, you know what, you can tame anyone, tame this bitch. And I'm like, all right. The plot sounded really promising. It's like a quick read. It was kind of a filler book for me. I just needed something to read, so I read this, and I liked it. I have given it 3.5 stars. Would I read it again? Not really, but you can read it. It's a small book. It's a fun read. The next book I read was The Brutal Prince. I read this book because I read the blurb and it was so funny, and I was like, okay, I need to read this. And I did, and actually the book was pretty good. I liked the chemistry, I liked the story. It was a little predictable. It had forced marriage, again a trope I like, so I read this book. I rated it 3.5. You could read it. The next book I read was Hood River Rat. It's a gay romance, so but the plot was great. I really liked this book. I'm not gonna lie. This is actually a first book in a series. I don't know why I did not read the series. I thought I will, but I never got to it. You know what? I put it in my TBR, but I love this. I love this book. I am gonna give this 4 stars. I really liked it. The next book I read was Beach Read. 5 stars. I'm gonna give this book 5 stars. I loved it. I loved the story. I loved the plot, and the secondhand embarrassment. I loved it. The book was so cute. And see, even in this book, I could not tell what the guy was thinking, but somehow I was okay with it. But I loved everything about this book. This is one of my favorite books this year. 5 stars. After Beach Street, I read Crow. Again, a mafia book. This book just had me hooked. Like, I just could not put it down. There was so much drama, so much angst, but still a bit of romance. It just there was so much going on. I loved this book. I'm gonna give this 4 stars. Absolutely loved it. Actually, you know what? Let's give it 4.5 stars. Yeah, I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. After this, I read The Invitation. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this book, but this book was actually really nice. Like, the plot was so new. I'm gonna talk about this book a little because I feel like this is a book I haven't seen anyone talk about on BookTube. So you need to read this. This is actually really good. So this girl is living in an apartment. She has a roommate who runs off with some of her stuff, and then the roommate who ran off gets this invitation to this really expensive wedding, and she's like, you know what, this bitch ran off with my stuff and without paying the rent, so the least I can do is treat myself to this wedding. So she ends up crashing the wedding with her best friend, where she meets the guy who is actually the groom's maid of honor, if I'm saying that right, please forgive me. And there's like, their chemistry is off the charts, and then she gets caught for crashing the wedding, so she runs away. And she also has this thing for buying secret diaries. Secret diaries is basically people who kind of sell their journals or just give their journals away once they are filled. So you can buy them. She buys them on eBay, and it's actually like reading a storybook, but it's real life. It's not fiction. And she buys this book off of eBay, this journal off of eBay, and you see the story in the journal, you see her romance going on in real life. You're kind of hooked in both ways. You're like, okay, I want to know what happens in the journal, but I also want to know what happens with her and this guy. It's really good. I loved this book. The plot was so good. I gave it 4.5. It's so good. The next book I read it's actually a duology. It's Darkest Sunrise and The Brightest Sunset. Again, 2 books I haven't seen anyone talk about. This book is actually such a different genre. I'll talk about this book a little bit too because I want people to read this book. So there's this girl, she's a doctor, and she has this kid. She's with her kid in the park, but another kid gets hurt. So she goes to look after the kid, and when she comes back, her kid is not there. Like, someone took her kid. And then the video comes into present, which is after like 10 or 12 years, and she's still healing with the trauma because she blames herself because, you know, she was with her kid and then her son was taken away, and she's like, where the fuck did my son go? So that's where the guy comes in. He has 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and his daughter is really sick and she's dying, and the only doctor who can save her is the protagonist, and she doesn't take kids. Like, she never treats kids because she is dealing with her own trauma, and that's how the story begins. And the cliffhanger in the first book, oh my fucking god, when the first book ended, I threw my phone at the fucking wall. I'm not even kidding. I was like, oh my god, like, it was so, oh, you need to read this duology. It's so much like. And in the second book, I was kind of pissed at both of them, especially the girl. I was like, you bitch, but then it gets better. I like this. I really like this book. You should definitely read these. Go ahead, read these books right now. Okay, after this, I read The Unwanted Wife. Again, a book I haven't seen people talk about. So, like the title suggests, it's about a married couple. It was kind of an arranged marriage, and the girl tries to make the marriage work, but the guy is like such a piece of shit to her. By the time the book starts, they've already been married for almost 18 months, and she's like, you know what? Fuck you. I want a divorce. And the guy is like, I'm not giving you a divorce. And she's like, the fuck? Why aren't you giving me a divorce? You hate me, right? And then that's how the story progresses. One of the main things I liked about this book was how much she made the guy suffer. She was like, you know what, you made me suffer for this long, work hard. You need to work hard for my love. And the guy is so dumb. But overall, I really like this book. And he's like, and you get to know why they got married and why he blames her. And it's just so fun. And throughout the entire book, he's trying to make up for all the times he was a piece of shit to her. And just seeing him trying so hard and being in agony was making me so happy. And to be very honest, I love this book. You need to read this. I give this 4 stars. Go ahead, read this right now.